Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on chapter 5, Law of Preservation, and the item is necessary and superfluous things that we are going to start today. We continue this chapter. Okay, so I'm going to ask Philip to read for us.
Necessary and superfluous things. 7:15. How can human beings know the limit of what is necessary? Wise men and women know by intuition, while many others learn through experience and at their own expense.
Again, so when we talk about necessary and superfluous things, it's of course, there are no list of necessary and superfluous things, because depending on where you live, depending on your stage of evolution, depending on your necessities, there are things that are necessary for you that are superfluous to others, and there are things that are necessary for others that are superfluous for you. So some of us know by intuition, right, and know how to control our necessities and not to become dependent on the superfluous things, and some learn from experience and at our own expense. And again, necessary things are necessary. Superfluous things, they're not bad per se. It's just they're superfluous. So the important thing is to learn how not to become dependent on them, right? I was giving you the example. I think the best example that we have nowadays is the cell phone, right? Is it necessary? For the majority of us nowadays, it is, right? When it becomes superfluous, when we are using it for superficial things, right? Then that we all do in reality. So I think it's a good example, right? You want for those that have kids, the cell phone will help you be close to your kids, to be aware of what they are doing, where they are. For those that work, and and there is actually a lot of discussions about abuse in terms of how you become dependent and available 24/7 for your work with the phone, but also you receive important communications and important instructions and things to do with the work. It's for those that have family that live far, it's a very important tool to connect with your family, to be in contact with your loved ones. So it is necessary for a lot of things, and it is superfluous for a lot of things also, right?
We don't need the last model every year, right?
Yes, exactly. We don't need the last model. We don't need half of the apps that are there we don't use, and we don't even know what they are there for. But the apps that we use, how many we really need, or how many we're just having fun. And again, there is nothing wrong in having fun. There is nothing wrong with the superfluous, as long as it doesn't become an impediment for us to lead a productive life, right? We all need distractions. We have television. Nowadays we have all the other things that distract us from our responsibilities. But the important thing, and this is a personal thing, is to know how to differentiate what is necessary, what is superfluous, and how to limit the use of superfluous things in our lives to the relaxation. You can use the phone. You are stressful, and you can listen to music that will help you relax. Is it superfluous? No, it's helpful. It helps you relax, right? Now, do you need to listen to music sometimes during the day when you are, doing something important, that the music is going to only distract you? No, then it becomes superfluous. You get the idea, right? I think we all get the idea. Okay. 7:16. You're on mute, Philip.
Has nature outlined the limit of our needs in the requirements of our physical makeup? Yes, but human beings are insatiable. Nature has indicated the limits of their needs by their physical makeup, but their vices have changed their structure and created wants that are not real needs.
Yeah, in terms of here, what nature has outlined the limit, it's, we can think of our physical body, right? We need to eat to survive. We need to drink. But how many of us abuse, eat too much, or drink what we shouldn't be drinking? Or on the other side, right? Unfortunately, it's a disease nowadays that affects some people. Don't eat because we want to look perfect, or do physical activities, gym in excess to have a perfect physical body, and we focus on the physical body and not on our mental sanity. So that's what the spirits are telling in terms of nature has outlined the limit of our needs in our physical makeup, right? It gives us a physical body that we need to take good care to for the physical body to be in good condition so we can be productive in society. We, of course, abuse, we eat the wrong foods, we eat too much, we eat too little, we drink too much, and so on and so forth. We all know what are the abuses that we do with our physical body. So as they say here, nature has indicated the limits of our needs by our physical makeup, but our vices changed the structure and created ones that are not real needs. What does the spirits mean by that, right? You become addicted to some, foods, to drinks. So you create wants that are not real needs. Is when you become addicted to, I don't know, let's use an easy one, chocolate, right? Cannot live without chocolate, right? Many people have this. So these are wants, but they're not really needs, right? Some sweets and other things. So that's what the spirits are telling us here. Okay.
Hey, Juan, could this also be people who, in a way, this is sort of a criticism from their point of view, people who are that exercise too much,
Yes.
change their bodies, or excessive plastic surgery, all that?
Absolutely, but that's a very good point, right? You are too much concerned about your physical appearance, and you ended up having
Hello?
many many plastic surgeries. That's an industry today that is very lucrative, and you see people that are using it for vanity. Again, plastic surgery helps a lot. It's very important. Recovery of accidents or improvement of things that prevent your physical body from working in an optimal way. But of course, there is a lot of abuses nowadays. Very good point, Fabio. Okay. Okay.
7:17.
Yeah.
What should we think of those who, in order to secure access, hoard the goods of earth to the detriment of others who lack what is necessary to survive? They overlook God's law and will have to answer for the poverty they have caused others to suffer. There is no finite boundary between what is necessary and what is superfluous. Civilization has created necessities that do not exist for primitive people. The spirits who have dictated the aforementioned principles are not saying that civilized human beings should live as primitive people do. Everything is relative, and reason must determine how things should be divided. Civilization develops both the moral sense and the sentiment of charity, which leads people to support one another mutually. Those who live at the expense of others, depriving them of even the barest necessities and hoarding the benefits of civilization for their own profit, only wear the mask of civilization, just as others only wear the mask of religion.
Yeah, that's a very good question from by Kardec, right? Because we had this problem at that time, and we still have a lot of these problems today, right? People that hoard the goods of earth to the detriment of others, right? Or people who spend their time and money to accumulate things without thinking of others that are in need. We discussed this in previous classes, right? There is food for the whole world not to get hungry, but we don't have a very efficient means of distribution of this food, not for lack of knowing how to do it, but for lack of will to do the right thing for those that are in need. The progress and the differences that we have in our civilization, humankind, different abilities, different knowledge, is important for us to progress. We are still at a stage of evolution that we need the carrot in front of us for us to make an effort to progress. The problem is when we abuse this what we achieve and start to abuse what we have, what we accumulate. And again, it's important to understand that the needs are different from different people. Some people, for them to have a comfortable life, they need more than others because of how they were raised, because where they live, right? People that live in farms don't need things that people that live in the city need, and vice versa. So again, there is not a line of what is necessity and what is superfluous and what is hoarding and what is not. But common sense, a deep analysis of ourselves, right? We should always question and constantly analyze our choices of what do we really need and what do we don't need. And again, clothes, for instance, right? The majority of us have more clothes than we need, probably. How many times a year we stop and clean our wardrobe and donate clothes? Some people do, but a lot of people do not, right? And there are always people in need of clothes. How much we waste in food on a weekly basis, right? We all do. We have food that goes bad and we throw it away. So it's, again, we are spirits, imperfect spirits. We need to learn a lot. We are evolving. So we have a lot of imperfections, and we need to learn to deal with these imperfections. We cannot start blaming ourselves and start feeling guilty because we are not perfect, because otherwise we go crazy if we start thinking like that. But we need to address issues. And the issues here is, what do we really need to feel comfortable in order to be able to work, to help others? And help others goes from our family to friends to those in the street, doesn't matter. Helping others, going outside ourselves, right? If we are too concerned with our own needs and we are lacking the basic necessities, we cannot help others because we're too concerned on finding ways to survive. So we need to find the balance, and the balance is different for each one of us. So we shouldn't also be judging others, right? Because someone that was raised with the bare necessities and can live with very little they are different from people that were raised in a wealthy family and are used to some other things. And if they don't have, they are going to face mental issues, right? Because of the struggle of not having things. Each person is different. But the important thing is we have to analyze for ourselves. What do we really need? What is the basic that we need? What is the superfluous that really, gives us some pleasure in having, and that's fine, right? Like, having a good TV to watch a good movie. Is it superfluous? Yes, but it helps, right? So it's not really that that of a problem. But if we have one TV in each room of the house because we cannot walk around the house without watching TV, do we really need that? Again, and I'm not saying we do or we don't. It's just an example of the excesses that we end up having, and sometimes we don't even pay attention, right? Because if we stop and analyze what we have, each of one of us have at home, I'm sure each of one of us is going to find things that that are superfluous and we don't need. And talking about clothes, right? There is this lady that's specialist in organizing, and she said, whatever you didn't use for 1 year, you don't really need. You're not going to use it anymore, so donate it, right? And it's probably it's real, right? Because if you don't use a cloth for 1 year, you went through all the seasons and never used it. Either you don't like it doesn't fit, or
Does not spark joy, donate it.
yeah, exactly. But again, it's
Right.
personal, right? Some people are happy, with a small wardrobe of clothes, and some people need more than that. That's fine, as long as we learn how to control the excesses. That's the idea here, right? And as Kardec says in here, those who live at the expense of others, depriving them of even the bare necessities, only wear the mask of civilization, just as others only wear the mask of religion. That's very interesting also, right? You practice religion, but you attend religious practices, but you don't practice in your daily lives, right? So again, it's a personal analysis that each one has to do for oneself. And what are the consequences? Well, consequences is that as we studied some questions ago, you are responsible not only for the evil that you do, but you are responsible for the good that you could do and didn't do. So every time you can help others by donating what is in excess in your life, time, things, and you are not doing it, are going to create consequences on for ourselves. Okay.
Well, given my studies about psychology from Joanna de Angelis, she sometimes she mentions that in general, of course each one of us is different. If all our vices and our excess usually hides some sort of a, I'll say mental disease, but maybe the translation is not exactly that one. Because we try, for instance, eating too much, sometimes we have a self-esteem problem, and then we're trying to hide
Yes.
with food or the lack of food, and having all the excesses as the same, this hoarding of, or the compulsion of buying more and more, either clothes, cars, phones, whatever, material things. Sometimes it hides a sort of a mental imbalance.
Yeah, or even it can be things that we carry on the unconscious from previous incarnations, right? I remember talking to in one of the spiritist conferences, talking about people that have the necessity of always having food at home, traveling with food. I know some people that do that, right? Sometimes is why, because they went through hunger in previous incarnations. So they carry this in the unconscious, and they need to have food because if they don't have, they go back to the feelings that they have, the suffering that they had. It's a very strong problem to be hungry and not having anything to eat. So yes, a lot of these are in the unconscious, and we can address it. We should try to address it. But again, we need to find balance on our needs, right? Sometimes this is not, if someone needs to have food in all their trips, but it's not really the big problem of their lives, let us address the big problems, right? Because the smaller ones we can deal later. Yeah, of course she's right. Everything, in the end, all these vices and imperfections, many of these, we bring from previous incarnations, or even from this incarnation, right? If when you were a child, you didn't have anything to eat, or you didn't have clothes, or you didn't have toys, and when you want to hang to them, right? Because you like when you need it. It becomes part of your needs, unconscious needs, right? That it's important to address, but the first step to address is to recognize that you have a problem, right? If you don't recognize you have a problem, I have as many clothes as I want because I like it and it's not a problem, then you're not going to address the problem, right? Okay. Right?
Voluntary deprivations and mortifications. 718. Does the law of self-preservation require us to provide for our bodily wants? Yes. Labor is impossible without strength and health.
Yeah, we know where Kardec is going with this, right? Because we know that some, especially more at that time, nowadays much less, the religions that calls for voluntary deprivations and to mortifications, to beat yourself. So the first thing is we have to take care of our physical body. Labor is impossible without strength and health, right? And we need to work for ourselves, for others. And again, work equals useful occupation, right? It doesn't need to be work to be paid. It needs to be active in helping others, or in producing something, in being useful to society. And if our physical body is sick or weak, we cannot work. So yes, the law of self-preservation requires us to take good care of our physical bodies.
719.
Yeah.
Are human beings at fault for seeking well-being? Well-being is a natural desire. God only prohibits excess because excess is detrimental to survival. God has not made it a crime to seek well-being if that well-being is not acquired at another's expense, and if it does not weaken your moral or physical strength.
Okay, Kardec continues building here where he wants to get with his questions, right? Well-being is a natural desire, right? So it's part of our instinctive, our instincts to provide for our physical body. So we eat, we have to drink water, we have to sleep, good some hours of sleep. These are all taking good care of our physical body, and it is natural, right? Now, when the natural becomes excess, and we discuss some of the excesses here, is when we create problems for ourselves. And when our well-being is acquired at another's expense, right? So we are eating too much while our neighbor doesn't have anything to eat and we don't care. That's when we are creating problems for ourselves. We are creating difficulties on our evolutionary path. Okay.
720. Are voluntary deprivations meant to serve as a voluntary atonement, laudable in God's eyes? Do good to others, and you will acquire more merit. Is any voluntary deprivation laudable? Yes, the self-deprivation of useless indulgences, because it weakens the hold that matter has on human beings and elevates their soul. Resistance to the temptation that solicits excess or indulgence in what is useless is praiseworthy. Equally commendable is cutting back on your necessities so that you have more to give to those in need. If your deprivations are only a vain pretense, they are a derision.
Okay, so the answer from the spirits on the first question is perfect, right? Do good to others and you acquire more merit. That's the basic concept, right? Now, if any voluntary deprivation laudable, we can answer that by a very simple example. A mother that prevents herself from eating because she wants to give food to their children in need. Isn't it laudable? Yes, of course. It's a voluntary deprivation? Yes, but he has all the merit in the world, right? She's trying to help her children. And the same thing, right? If you have you have enough food for yourself, but there are those that are hungry around you, and you divide the food that you have, so you are going to eat less, but you are going to help others, is also a voluntary deprivation, which is laudable. And by that, we can imagine the rest, right? So it's not that, we may be causing harm to our physical body because we are depriving it of what it needs, but in doing so, we are helping those in need. So we are doing what's right? Is the same case. There is a case in the gospel according to Spiritism question, right? Of when it talks about suicide, someone jumps in front of a car to save a child and then dies in the process. Is it a suicide? Of course, it's not a suicide. You're doing a noble act, right? So voluntary deprivation to help others that are in much more need than you are exactly do good to others and acquiring more merit. It's exactly what the spirits are telling us here, right? But then when you are doing it for yourself, that's what Kardec is going to get next.
721. Throughout the course of time and among all populations, there have been those who have lived a life of ascetic mortification. Is an ascetic life ever praiseworthy? Ask yourselves to whom such a life is useful, and you will have the answer to your question. If such a life only serves the person who leads it, and it prevents that person from doing good, it is a form of selfishness, regardless of the pretext it hides behind. True mortification, according to Christian charity, is to impose self-deprivation and work upon yourself for the benefit of others.
See how interesting, right? The answer from the spirit is very direct, right? What we have to do, ask yourselves to whom such a life is useful, right? So you isolate yourself from everyone because you don't want to be contaminated by society. What is this? This is an act of selfishness. You're only thinking about yourself and you're not thinking about others. You know, you are going to, the only way to progress morally and intellectually is to be amongst those that are in need and to learn from these experiences. Now, there are those in the very exceptional cases of this elevated spirits that isolate themselves in order to vibrate for the whole humanity, and through their vibrations they elevate the atmosphere of the whole planet. Yes, but this is 1 in a billion. True. So we are not going to say that all of those that isolate themselves are selfish, because we cannot generalize. It is possible. There are those that can. But in general, what they are trying to do is to run away from society for different reasons, right? Again, there are religions that encourage this type of isolation, but you know, the answer from the spirits, to whom such a life is useful, right? That's the basic question, right? If someone is there isolated in a convent, in a monastery, and only praying the whole day, we're not going to say it is a bad spirit, but it is clearly a misguided spirit, right? Because it is using their time for the wrong purpose, right? Again, if they do because they really believe that that's the right thing, they were taught that in their religion, so the responsibility is according to your knowledge. Your lack of knowledge of how to be of service to others, and because you were taught that that's how Christ wanted you to be, it's going to reduce a lot their responsibility. But they are going to look back eventually when they are back in the spiritual world and feel guilty or angry at themselves for the wasted time, right? You waste an incarnation. Again, it's never a complete waste. You are always learning, but you could have done so much more with all these qualities that you have, because they are very religious, they have a lot of faith, but how they are using this, if they are not helping anyone, they are being selfish in the end, right?
I have something to share, if I may. Okay, it is true that isolation is definitely, to become a recluse or a troglodyte, of course, it's not advisable. But yet, I still believe that you have to exercise judgment when you go out there. Because I know you want to be of benefit for others, but also you don't want to be surrounded by toxic people that instead of you helping them, they might influence you.
Oh,
so you have to be careful on how you are the benefit for others.
You are absolutely right.
It's a concrete example. I may want to help a whole bunch of drug addicts, but I'm not going to go to the den. If I want to help some drug addicts, I go to a meeting, a self-help group.
Oh, you're absolutely right. But we need to know our limits, and we need to know our weaknesses. But that does not prevent of finding those that we can help. We can always
definitely, yes.
Of course, we're not going to jump into a dangerous place that we have no condition of dealing with it, right?
Exactly. That was actually my point. Yes.
Yes. No, you are absolutely right. But that's it's self-knowledge, right? Know your own limitations and know your own strengths. So how can you be more useful? If I would love to help in a hospital, but I cannot deal with sick people. So don't go to a hospital. That's not the right approach. You are going to force yourself. You're going to end up sick instead of helping others, right? But there is always some area of our lives that we have strengths and that we can be useful to others. So, but it's again, it's self-knowledge. Yes.
So, I have, she's still alive, but older now. A cousin who's a nun,
Mm.
or who wanted to be a nun, and she wanted to be a nun, and she wanted to be a nun so much that she was finally accepted in a convent, and they let her in. And it just so happens that then, for whatever reason, every single time she had to do chores, she became sick. And so, of course, you know, you're there for a purpose, but then you're there to help the convent or to help in the collective of praying, but also you need to do charity, you need to go, and it always happened that she got sick. So of course, then she didn't really want to be there, because then she was being put to work to do things for others. And then on top of that, I don't think they wanted her there either, because she wasn't being
Helpful.
exact.
Yeah. Again, Mother Teresa was a nun. So, and we know very few people that help more than Mother Teresa. So it's not being a nun or not being a nun or being a priest or being a rabbi. It's what you do with what you have, right? So, you know, if all nuns could be Mother Teresa's, you know, we wish everybody was a nun, right? Because again, it's how you use your abilities. How can you be of help to others, right? Next one is an interesting one also.
722. Is there any virtue in abstaining from eating certain foods, as practiced among various religious or ethnic groups? Whatever you can eat without harming your health is permitted. Legislators may have prohibited certain foods for a useful purpose and portrayed them as emanating from God to give them these regulations greater authority.
That's very interesting, right? Whatever you can eat without harming your health is permitted. That's this answer from the spirits. Now, of course, if you go to the different religions and you have, you know, the Jews cannot eat pork, the Hindus cannot eat cows, the Muslims cannot eat, I don't remember what exactly. And they say that these are laws that emanate from God. In the case of Moses, he forbid the Jewish people was one of the commandments to eat pork, because he knew mediumistically that it was a cause of a lot of diseases. So it's easier to say it comes from God, and they carry this until today. They separate the foods, the cheese and the dairy and the meats, because these all had good reasons to start with. But you know, you lose the reasons, and you keep carrying just the traditions, and again, we are not going to condemn anyone if they don't want to eat of the food that their religion tell them not to eat. That's fine, right? But don't go hungry because of that. That's the problem, right? If you rather die of hunger than to eat, I don't know, in India, to eat cow, you know, to eat meat from a cow, then you are creating a problem for yourself. But if you want to be a vegetarian, and you want to follow the healthy vegetarian diet, it's fine. It's, you know, eventually we won't eat animal food in I don't know how many years, hundreds or millions of years or thousands of years, as we evolve and our physical body needs less. But again, we need to take good care of our physical body, and whatever we can eat without harming our health, there's nothing wrong with that. But we also have to accept the others' beliefs, others' choices, and respect them, right? It's important to respect them. So you are not going to go to a Jewish party and take a platter of pork to serve, because you are disrespecting their beliefs, right? And you are not going to eat eat red meat in a Hindu house that think that the cow is sacred. Again, it's respect and understanding of others' traditions and religions, accepting that. Again, without abusing. That's always the problem, right? The abuse, the excesses, the judgments that they have, that we have, because it's a two-way street, right? They judge us, or those that are different from them, because it's different because you are sinful. We respect them, we ask for the same respect, and we live our lives. That's how it should be.
João,
Yeah.
in this question also fits the religions that ask followers to fast.
Yeah, again, if it's some religions do that, right? The Jewish do that. They have the Sabbath. The Muslims have in Ramadan. The Christians have the Good Friday sometimes, right? Again, as long as it doesn't harm your physical body, as long as you can live with that and you want to do that, respect it, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because it's according to what makes sense for each person, right? We should respect, the problem is when you try to force others to do what you believe is right, then it gets wrong, right? Because you don't eat a certain type of meat, and you want to force others not to eat that meat because it's what you believe. You're trying to impose your beliefs on people that are not interested in your beliefs. Then is when you start creating problems for yourself, right? If you respect others, you do what you think is right for you, that's okay, right? Okay.
723.
Sorry.
I have a question.
Sure.
I remember growing up that the Catholic Church prohibited having beef on Fridays. They recommended fish or seafood. Do they still have that? I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
They
Yeah,
they
but
do?
No,
very few people follow it, right? Sorry. Yes, Carol?
oh, I was going to say, I think they rescinded that. I mean, I suppose it would be optional, but Fridays it was pretty strict. I mean, I had friends and, you wouldn't be invited on a Friday because usually the mother or the father would be cooking fish and nobody wanted it. The kids would always complain, but I think they rescinded it.
Okay. Thank you.
But I think for Good Friday is still a tradition, right?
Oh yeah, I believe so. I believe so.
Every Friday of the quarantena, that was from Ash Wednesday to
Lent.
To Lent,
yeah,
for Lent.
the whole period
Of
every
Lent.
Friday, no consumption of meat.
Red meat.
Yeah, that day, yes, only fish. That day they resented, but on the Good Friday they still must decide to eat only fish.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
723.
Now we're going to address directly the subject.
Does the consumption of animal flesh by human beings contradict natural law? With your physical makeup, flesh nourishes flesh, and without this kind of sustenance, human strength declines. The law of self-preservation requires humans to keep up their strength and health to fulfill the law of labor. They should, therefore, eat according to the requirements of their bodies.
Okay, so this is a question that we are going to keep changing and evolving, right? So with our physical makeup, flesh nourishes flesh. That's what the spirits are telling us in 1857. With the advancements of science nowadays, we found replacements for animal flesh that we can live without consuming animal flesh nowadays already, right? And you have those, the vegetarians and the vegans that do that. But let us remember what Jesus taught us, right? More important than what goes into our mouth is what comes out of our mouth. So if we as we evolve as spirits, we are going less and less to need to consume animal flesh, because we will find whatever is needed outside animal flesh. But we are still not there. The world's industry is still focused on providing animal food, and we cannot stop overnight because it will be a global calamity. You cannot go and tell someone that is going through hunger in Africa that they should not eat whatever food is available to them, right? So again, everything with balance and everything understanding our necessities. So there is nothing wrong with the consumption of animal flesh, because that's what our physical body needs at our stage of evolution. We are moving away from it slowly, very slowly, and we will continue moving away from it. It will take, I don't know how long, for us to organize society and the whole world culture to adapt to those things, right? I mentioned last week that I was in Uruguay for the 11th World Spiritist Congress, and Uruguay is one of the places that have cattle, very good cattle, very good meat, and they don't understand you not wanting to eat their meat, because it's of course the best in the world, right? Like the Argentinians, the neighbors, think that their meat is the best in the world, and so on and so forth. But so it's something that we need to understand, accept, and understand that we are going to get there. But we first need to focus on the health of our physical body without causing harm to it. Because if you stop eating what animal protein gives to you, but you don't replace with proteins from other sources, you're going to get weak and you're going to get anemic and things like that. So if you can, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it cannot be done to the detriment of other things that you should focus on our lives, right? So if you're a vegetarian but you are practicing evil every day, or you don't treat well your animals, that you kick the dog, right? So what's the benefit, right? So everything with balance.
Ron, just a quick compliment. I was listening to, I don't know if you heard about my Easy Barada from
From Rio.
Yeah, all right. I was listening to her talk, and then she I think she had a very good contact with Chico Xavier, right? And
so I don't know.
well, at least what she said, that but when Chico was writing, psychography, the Consoler, Unquestioned, as I wrote here, 129, about the meat. So Chico stopped eating meat because he felt, oh, if Emmanuel is telling me this, so I will stop eating meat. And after a few months, whatever, his health started to decline, and it comes Emmanuel. Chico, I told you for the book, but your health is getting
Worse.
worse. You have problems. Please Can you eat meat?
Again, that's, and he ate meat to the end of his life.
Yes.
And again, if we understand, sometimes we focus too much on one thing and forget about the main things, which is, to do to others, help others to progress morally and spiritually, right? And this is, sometimes this becomes a distraction instead of being something useful for our lives. Okay.
724.
Yes.
Is there any merit in abstaining from any particular kind of food when suffered as a form of penance? Yes, if suffered for the sake of others. However, God cannot regard any mortification as laudable if it is not a serious and useful deprivation. This is why we say that those who practice superficial self-deprivation are hypocrites.
Again, the spirits are very direct and very strong here, right? Serious and useful deprivation is the one that helps. You do in order to help others. Whatever it's not to help others, it's not useful, right? We are being hypocrites, as they say here, right? Okay.
725.
Yeah, sorry, I went too much. Go.
What should we think of the mutilation of the bodies of humans and animals? What is the purpose of such a question? Ask yourselves whether something is useful or not. What is useful, what is useless, displeases God, and what is hurtful disappoints the purpose of creation. Rest assured that God only appreciates sentiments that elevate the soul. It is by practicing divine law and not by violating it that you can shake off your material envelope.
Yeah, I don't know if mutilation of the bodies was something that was practiced by any religion, or I don't have this knowledge. I don't know if anyone.
Not Muslims, but in Africa, they do have some religions.
Oh, they have some religions, some cults that yeah,
especially with the women.
Women and
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yes, they still have today, which is, that's the question. The answer from the spirits: what is the purpose of such a question? Is this useful? And again, right? What use? If we're mutilating our bodies, why? How can it be useful? Unless it's for, we're doing for medical reasons, right? That we have to do, and we have every day people being deprived of their physical part of the physical body because of diseases, of all gangrene, diabetes, and this is different, right? But mutilate your body just to please God, that cannot make any sense, right?
$7.26.
Yeah, you know what? Let me leave 7.26 for next week, because
Okay.
it's a long one, and we still have a
Wow, time flies.
time flies. Yes.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock already. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we continue next week. So this Saturday we have a talk by. I lost the talk. Oh, do I have it here? I think we have a talk by Anísio Rezende. It's called. See what else? What do we have for this Saturday? I think I had here, but I don't. Okay, so we have a talk this Saturday by Anísio Rezende from San Diego. I don't know the subject. I don't have it here. This Sunday is our Q&A session. You are all invited to join us 11 a.m. Bring your questions. Let's discuss anything related to Spiritism. On our weekly email, we are sending all the talks in this 19th U.S. Spiritist Symposium, talks and roundtables, and also all the talks and roundtables on the 11th World Spiritist Congress that happened a couple of weeks ago, right? So if you want to watch any of the lectures, they're all available on our email. Okay, where are we on the book club, Danny? We are on chapter 23 next week, the book A Light in the Darkness by Joana de Angelis and Divaldo Franco. Okay, Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, John, for hosting. And thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening. And thank you, everyone, for being here and participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again for our studies of the Spirits book, Book 3, Chapter 5, Necessary and Superfluous, and Voluntary Deprivations. Through our experiences, we learn the difference between the necessary and the superfluous things. We need to keep our physical bodies in good condition. However, our vices can creep in, as well as our concerns through vanity. Reason and discernment needs to be used. Civilization develops through charity, common sense, and moral development. We should analyze our choices and what we overtly waste as well. We need to control excesses and to find the balance through helping others. Eat the foods that truly nourish and strengthen the body. Respect others with their beliefs or religious traditions. Eventually, we may lessen the global need for animal consumption of meat. We are progressing. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, our friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we remind ourselves as we go forth to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.